Say what?
Is that in chapter 6? Is that what we're doing?
Yes. So we're starting 6.1. And I will share the PowerPoints, okay? You can take notes on your Chromebook until I come over here, and if I see, well, he's got games or unlocked games tab open up over here, and be like, yep, no, you can no longer do this on your Chromebook anymore. All right?
Wow.
Somebody does that's crazy.
I would prefer you not doing that because I'm paying attention. So if you're doing anything on your Chromebook, you should be paying attention to the lecture stuff. Okay, and then you can use this to take notes, right?
I know.
Like, hey, if there's a word up here that you don't know, you can Google it on your Chromebook. And then, like, okay, this is what this is. That's acceptable, but I want you focusing on the topic at hand, right? Since you're not taking notes, you should be 100% focused and incorporated.
I can leave it open.
Yeah, you can leave it open. You can use it to Google words if there's a word you don't know, and you can use it to type notes for stuff. Like if we talk about it again, I'm going to share these with you, okay? But if you want me to lose my cool, I can look back there and somebody's like playing on games or something. Like if you want to Google something, be like, hey, I need to figure this for a little bit more information. That's fine, but it's not to do other working. Yeah, like it's your Chromebooks aren't there so you can do work in other classes. It's there to be as a resource to help you with this in some way, shape, or form. And I'll give you that resource until it is misused. Yes, sir.
Are you gonna tell us, hey, this is important, you should?
I will usually try to. Yeah.
Because if not, I don't know what this is.
All right, we are moving on into energy and metabolism.
I need to work.
All right, so when we talk about energy in life, all energy within the life on Earth is going to originate in some way, shape, or form from the sun. Okay? With the exception of some like really, really deep hydrothermal vents. The source of all the energy when we get to ecosystems, talking about how energy flows through a food chain, flows through an ecosystem, it's all going to start from the sun. Okay? Bioenergetics. This is what we're going to call the study of energy throughout a living system. Bio, what's that mean? Life. Energetics, what's that mean? Energy. So this is energy of life. Okay. As you can see here, is this kind of a rough kind of diagram. We get energy from the sun, goes to plants, which are producers, also called autotrophs. Then consumers can eat those, and then they all get dissolved or decomposed by decomposers. And then as you go through every step of the process, you're going to lose a little bit of heat somewhere. Okay. All right, this is kind of a little bit visual of what would be a food chain when we get to ecology, just kind of showing that, again, sun is the originator of pretty much all energy. Okay, it goes to plants and it will go through the food chain. Right? Same concept behind photosynthesis, basically makes all the food in some way, shape, or form. Because even if you're a carnivore, you only eat meat stuff. What does the stuff you eat?
Grass.
Plants, right? So if you go down, we're all vegetarians. If you go down far enough. All right, metabolism. This is going to be all of the chemical reactions of a cell or an organism. This is the breaking down of food. This is the reactions to move things around, whether it be reactions to synthesize carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, all of that, right? So every chemical reaction within your body, right? Kind of if we use that on an everyday basis, you think metabolism is how fast you digest food. It's a little bit more complex than that when we get into biology. The metabolic pathway is a series of biochemical reactions that converts one or more substrates into a final product. Okay, can you think of a metabolic pathway? That's pretty important for us. Photosynthesis would be one. Okay, what's the opposite of photosynthesis?
Cellular.
Yep, cellular respiration. For example, energy from the sun is captured during photosynthesis to convert CO2 and H2O into glucose, C6H12O6. Then energy stored in glucose is released during cellular respiration. Yes, ma'am?
Do we need to know that the little parentheses?
I'm not going to make you know it right now, but when we get to photosynthesis and cellular respiration, absolutely. Especially because my on-level biology class, that's where we're at right now. It's photosynthesis. It's like, no, you absolutely have to know it. You have to know the entire equation, forwards and backwards. Okay. The reason I say you have to know it forwards and backwards is because the equation for photosynthesis is the equation for cellular respiration in reverse. Okay. So when you need it forwards and backwards, I mean that literally. So photosynthesis is going to be 6 CO2 plus 6 H2O yields C6 H12O6 plus 6 O2. Okay. Makes sense?
Oh, you're just speaking another language.
It's chemistry. It's chemistry. Here's the thing. I think I had y'all memorize the equation for photosynthesis last year anyway.
No, you didn't.
For some reason. Did I not?
I don't remember it.
Oh.
We were in physical science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Because we talk about
I remember the
endothermic and
equation for
exothermic
moles.
reactions.
Oh, yeah.
For what?
Moles.
Moles.
I don't remember that.
Wait,
61033 times.
Yeah.
Or 61022 times
No,
1022.
it's 03. Whoa!
No, it's two. It's two.
Oh,
It's two.
yeah.
numbers.
Oh, okay. God, Peru. Dang it.
What is that, Mr. Paul?
6.022.
Oh, Mr.
Yeah.
Rice, right again. Again, photosynthesis, cellular respiration, we're going to be spending a lot of time on that. You get the unfortunate privilege of having to know like the enzymes and proteins involved, specifically where the electrons move. All on-level guys have to know is that it moves. It moves through proteins, and that's good. Y'all have to know exactly what proteins, photosystem 2, photosystem 1, cytochrome B, all of that good stuff. Okay, but just know these are kind of opposite reactions. So sunlight will hit these chloroplasts for photosynthesis to make oxygen and glucose, C6H12O6. Mitochondria use these things as an energy source, specifically this. O2 is what's called the final electron acceptor to generate CO2 and H2O, but they also make energy during this process, and that's the energy everything can use to move. This is the equation that once we hit photosynthesis and cellular respiration, you will have to know literally backwards and forward. Also know that in photosynthesis, you add energy from sunlight. Cellular respiration, you get energy out in the form of ATP. When we go on chapter, I think the next section we talk about endergonic and exergonic. Does that sound kind of familiar? I think those physical science students, endothermic and exothermic.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing, except a little bit different. Endergonic versus exergonic has to do with spontaneity. If a reaction will happen on its own or if it needs something else to happen to it. But really, like the energy you're looking at is the same. If it releases energy, it's going to be exergonic. If it absorbs energy, it's endergonic.
Did you say that cellular respiration releases energy?
Yes. Yes, it does. In the form of ATP.
Okay.
And heat. Okay. So actually one of the mechanisms to raise your temperature is what they call decoupling cellular respiration from ATP production. And so it just starts running, and that is actually a mechanism you can use to raise your temperature.
So we're going to write this down. Have to know that.
Yes, you will have to know this. Probably not for your exam next week, but definitely for
So I'm not going to put it down yet.
when photosynthesis hits. Yes, ma'am.
We're going to exam next week.
Wednesday.
Say we won't be here Wednesday.
We're going to be testing. And y'all are going to be job shadowing.
No, next week.
Next week? No, we're here
You gotta do it when you get back. Remember, you don't qualify for. Yes.
Okay.
I will be here next Wednesday. Can I come in for Tuesday?
Yes.
Waiting for
No,
we're
I'm
week
not.
exam next week, but it's also fall break.
Wait, when's fall break?
Next
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah, we're out next Thursday, Friday, and Monday.
Yes,
And after the whole break.
Yeah. All right, metabolic pathways.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
There are two types of reactions or pathways that are required to maintain the cell's energy balance. Those that require energy to synthesize larger molecules, this is called anabolic. Those that release energy to break down large molecules into smaller molecules, this is called catabolic. They'll be kind of a, yes ma'am.
So anabolic stores it?
Yeah, anabolic builds it up and stores it. Catabolic breaks it down and releases it. Okay. There's going to be a slide on here that I stole from someone that has kind of a simple trick to help you remember which one builds stuff up and which stuff breaks stuff down. All right. This is a visual. Again, anabolic puts stuff together, and you're adding energy. Catabolic breaks stuff down, and it releases energy. So if we look at photosynthesis and cellular respiration, which is which?
Cellular respiration is like happening in the mitochondria. It releases ATP and heat.
Okay, so it's releasing what?
Energy.
Energy. So is it going to be anabolic or catabolic?
Catabolic.
Cellular respiration is catabolic. We know that photosynthesis is the opposite. what is photosynthesis going to be?
Anabolic.
Anabolic, right? Where's the energy coming from in photosynthesis? The sun. Good deal. This is just another visual, anabolic versus catabolic. Okay, this is building molecules. All right, so y'all have kind of decent graphs, anabolic versus catabolic. All right. So what's this one?
It's glucose.
Yeah. So
Is this photosynthesis?
Catabolic.
now this is.
I remember seeing this somewhere. That's why I remember that.
What's it bring down?
All right, so we've got this one. What's happening here?
Is it protein?
That's
Now this is a sugar molecule and this is a sugar
Isn't
molecule.
that catabolic? Anabolic.
Catabolic.
That's anabolic.
It's like it's breaking it down.
This one's breaking it down.
Now that one's joining.
And already joins them
See?
together.
This one's
Yeah.
joining them together.
There's oxygen in between them.
Yep.
Bonded to it.
So this one is
Anabolic.
anabolic. This one,
Is also
Catabolic.
Oh, that's catabolic. Yeah,
catabolic,
that's-
right? Very good. All right, catabolic reactions, again, these break down larger, more complex molecules. So they degrade them. These will be exergonic or exothermic. The memory trick here is cats break things.
Yeah.
So catabolic breaks stuff down.
Including keyboards.
Yeah, including keyboards. Yes, ma'am.
We just do the exothermic or whatever. Do we have to remember this other one?
So in biology, this is the one they're talking about, exergonic. Just know that they're pretty much the same thing. The difference is if it's exergonic, it will happen spontaneously.
So catabolic and exergonic are equal.
With exothermic,
Is the other one endo?
endergonic, and it's basically endothermic. It absorbs
Okay,
energy.
I was trying to remember.
It's pretty much the same thing. The only difference is it has to do with what's called like happening spontaneously. Like if it's exergonic, it will happen spontaneously. If it's exothermic, it won't necessarily be spontaneous.
So will it happen that way with endo or endo? How do you say it?
Endothermic will not happen spontaneously.
No, the other.
Exogonic will happen spontaneously.
Okay.
Endergonic will not.
And yeah, that one.
Okay.
I thought versus watching.
Hey, they got to get the likes and the views, right? Yes,
So
ma'am.
the other one will be endothermic spontaneous too.
No, endergonic is not spontaneous. Exergonic is spontaneous.
So is that the same as endothermic then?
In that it
difference?
absorbs energy, yes.
What's the difference?
Between gonic and thermic. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
It has to do with if the reaction will happen spontaneously. Meaning on its own. You don't have to add anything to it, it just happens. Okay. We'll get into it more tomorrow.
Yes.
I think so.
One more question.
Yes, ma'am.
So will the exergonic still like keep it in, like keep energy in?
No, it releases. It's still releasing.
Or,
So exothermic,
Yeah.
exergonic, they both release energy. Okay, we're just changing the term a little bit and adding the phrase spontaneity into it.
Okay.
Same thing. Endothermic, endergonic, they both absorb energy. It just has to do with is it spontaneous or not.
That's a nice.
All right. Anabolic reactions use energy to build more complex molecules. These are synthesis reactions. This would be endergonic. They absorb energy. A plus B yields AB would be an example. And then we've got Anakin built the Death Star. Yep, that doesn't fit into the analogy slide. All right. So is photosynthesis an anabolic or catabolic pathway?
Anabolic.
Anabolic, why?
Because it builds
Because it builds thing, and what are we adding?
Energy.
Energy, right? What evidence does support your answer? Have to use sunlight. It makes glucose from carbon dioxide. Cell respiration, is it anabolic or catabolic? Catabolic. Because it's the opposite. So what's it doing?
Releasing.
Yeah, it's releasing energy and it's breaking stuff down. Very good. All right, evolution of metabolic pathways. So all types of life share the same metabolic pathways. So it doesn't matter if we're a piece of bacteria or if we're humans. We're going to break down glucose mostly the same way. This commonality provides more evidence that organisms evolved from common ancestors. So there's actually the proteins that are used in this pathway. We see them pretty much similar across bacteria as well to us. Over time, these diverged a little bit as organisms evolved. They developed special enzymes to help them adapt to their environments. As you can see here, this is kind of the theory behind the evolution of metabolic pathways, specifically I'd probably say cellular respiration is the main one. That's pretty common. But like plants and animals, the cellular respiration process pretty much the same. All right, critical thinking question. So, a byproduct of photosynthesis is oxygen. Oxygen is used in cellular respiration. Byproducts of cellular respiration are going to be CO2 and ATP and water as well. So, early Earth lacked oxygen. That's kind of the thrilling theory. So, organisms had to evolve an anaerobic mechanism to survive. So, anaerobic means without oxygen. Aerobic means with oxygen. So, when we're talking about cellular respiration, is that anaerobic or aerobic?
Because it's releasing.
Okay. No, anaerobic means without oxygen. Aerobic means with oxygen. Do we have to have oxygen in order to work?
Yeah.
Yes. So our cellular respirations that plants use, that we use, is aerobic, meaning we have to use oxygen. Okay. Now, before oxygen was in the atmosphere, basically the bacteria had to figure out other ways to survive. All right. So we know early atmosphere lacked oxygen. Which claim can best be made based on this knowledge and your understanding of how the Earth evolved? Oxygen is a byproduct of anaerobic respiration, so there's very little oxygen in the atmosphere until anaerobic organisms evolved. Oxygen is a byproduct of fermentation, so there was little oxygen in the atmosphere until prokaryotes appeared. Oxygen is a byproduct of aerobic respiration, so there was very little oxygen in the atmosphere until animals evolved. Or oxygen is a byproduct of photosynthesis, so there's very little oxygen in the atmosphere until photosynthetic organisms evolved. This question is probably going to be one that is similar to the one that you see on the AP exam. Okay, so which one is it? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Okay, hold your numbers like this. Count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
I don't have enough time, so I'm not even good.
What do you mean? I'll read it out loud to you.
You got the process. That's
Okay. All right. Okay. Most of you got it right. There's no 5. It is number 4. Okay. Remember, oxygen is a byproduct of photosynthesis. Plants makes oxygen. That's why we can breathe. Plants photosynthesize. That is the purpose behind it. Okay. All right. Yeah. But essentially, all right. Here's the deal. If you're going through this, do you need to know about anaerobic respiration or fermentation or aerobic respiration? So you need to know that photosynthesis makes oxygen. Right? So when you're going through the question, even that difficult question that you were given on your reading, you didn't have to know all of them. Because it was like 1, 2, 3, 4. You found 2 of them that were right, the other 3 didn't matter. Right? And I think one of them was, I don't remember what the question was.
Oh, no.
One was like endothermic or exothermic, I think.
Yeah, I just want you to might know.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to run out of time.
All right, so what are metabolic pathways?
Hold on.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I knew it. Never mind.
Yeah. Series of biochemical reactions used to make stuff or convert stuff.
Yep.
Right? What are the 2 biggest examples?
Catabolic.
Anabolic.
Okay. Those are classifications of them. Photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Very good. What's the difference between an anabolic and a catabolic pathway?
Anabolic builds up, catabolic
Breaks down. Remember, with anabolic you also add energy. With catabolic you release energy. How do chemical reactions play a role in energy transfer? Which chemical reactions are the biggest ones we talked about? These can also be metabolic pathways.
Photosynthesis converts like sunlight's energy.
Yes.
Cellular respiration like breaks it down.
Yeah, right. Photosynthesis converts sunlight to energy. Okay, and that energy is usually stored in the form of glucose, which then can be used in cellular respiration to transfer that energy from glucose into ATP. All right, any questions?
No.
We've got 24 minutes. This is a really short section. You can either, so your free response questions, I'm probably going to make them due Tuesday of next week because we're going to have the exam on Wednesday. All right, and then so we can probably finish this chapter on Monday. Do we want to go ahead and get ahead on this chapter, or do you want to take 15 minutes to start on your free response group work?
We should
Okay.
get ahead.
No,
Alright.
we should vote.
Who wants to get ahead? Okay.
they're out.
Tell you what, we've got 24 minutes.
Yeah,
We'll do 10 minutes of this, and then we'll go to the free response time. Sound good?
Yeah.
Is that like pretty fair? Because then it's 10 minutes of free response, and then 15 of free response, then 10 of this. All right, so this is going to be over potential, kinetic, free, and activation energy. Do you remember this from last year?
Yeah.
Okay, good deal.
I might be good on this part.
Wait, what was it?
Potential, kinetic, and you can also open up the book and follow along with the book. Either way, doesn't matter. All right. 6.2, potential, kinetic, free, and activation energy.
How about types of energy?
Yeah, that's fine. Types of energy. Energy is the ability to do work. So do work, right? It can be classified as either kinetic or potential. Y'all know the difference between the two?
Yeah.
Kinetic is moving and the potential is like
Stored.
Perfect. Kinetic is moving, potential is stored. Good job. Objects in motion have kinetic energy. Objects that have potential to move have potential energy. Now, I know last year when we looked at kinetic versus potential, we were talking about big things, or relatively large things. For example, if I have my clicker, let me do something else. I don't want to drop that. For example, if I have this bag of wipes here, what kind of energy does it have? Potential, and then it can be converted into kinetic, right? This thing is still going to hold true, except now we're dealing with atoms or even just protons moving sometimes. Okay? Right.
Wait, protons move?
Yes.
I thought it was the electrons that move.
So here's the thing. When we start looking at what is called the semi-osmotic gradient, specifically the ones that drive ATP production and photosynthesis and cellular respiration, it is the movement of protons from one side of a membrane to the other that provide the energy to make that ATP. That's why when I'm talking about protons. Okay. Now, really all it is a hydrogen atom that loses an electron, but hydrogen atoms only have one electron and one proton, don't have any neutrons, and so if you have a hydrogen atom that loses an electron, you're just left with a proton. So, does that make a little more sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, this visual that I stole, kinetic energy is again an energy in motion, potential energy is stored energy. So as you can see here, the top of the hill you have potential energy, downhill it gets converted into kinetic energy. If you go up the hill, you have to put energy in from some way, shape, or form. Energy here, it says, is one of the big ideas. What that means is there's certain, like for AP classes, they have certain things. They're like science knowledge, no, what is it called? Science methods, big ideas, and then you've got like core concepts. These are like the three groups of stuff that you need to know. So big ideas is one of the big ones, or energy is one of the big ideas. So biological systems utilize free energy and molecular building blocks to grow, to reproduce, and to maintain dynamic homeostasis. All right. So if we look at this picture, what is this?
Potential energy.
Potential energy in the form of a dam. What is this?
Kinetic.
Kinetic. All right. We're going to use this kind of same analogy when we get to, again, photosynthesis and respiration, where we have this stored energy, this potential that can be transferred into kinetic. So examples of potential and kinetic in cells is the energy of chemical electrical gradients. For example, here at the left, we've got a higher concentration here, a lower concentration here. These can diffuse through the membrane. What are they going to do? They're going to
Pass through.
pass through, go from higher concentration to lower concentration, right? So essentially what we're able to do with the cell membranes is we'll have, I'm going to use the word turbine, which is going to be in the form of a protein that will be in the cell membrane, and only these things can go through that protein, which is a turbine, right? And as they go through, it'll turn that turbine to create energy some way, okay? So think about the cell membrane as the dam wall. We've got the particles here, this concentration gradient, it's the water behind it, it's the weight, potential energy. And then we have a protein here that could let it through, like via turbine. That is how you convert this potential energy into kinetic energy, which would go through here, which would then convert it into like a potential chemical energy as well. Is everybody giggling because I'm talking about dams?
Yeah.
Well, you said the damn wall.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I'm very good picture.
All right. I did get detention last hour for someone cursing in my classroom. All right, so chemical energy. This is going to be energy stored in chemical bonds. So it is potential. right? Once it's released, it turns into kinetic.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
I eat.
Yes, sir.
So the words that are bolded in black, are those going to be the vocabulary you use?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
So do you know how to find you know how to find the vocabulary. Right. Again, your test, I'm probably not going to have any vocabulary words on it, though.
Oh.
But, like, you need to know the vocabulary to answer the question.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's a little bit more effective, actually, if you bio stuff.
So you won't have the vocabulary on the exams?
No. Exams are going to be 1 day, too. 1 day. Because I don't want to waste 2 days on instruction. So next week it's going to be Monday, we'll finish up chapter 6, or if you have any review things. Tuesday is a review day. Wednesday, exam. Okay, make sense?
And then break.
And then break, yep.
This he gets
It's a
Why is
break.
it, why is it only 3 days of school that we get home?
I don't know.
It's a very odd break. That's all I just think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
I like it.
It's
Thursday,
Friday,
and
And
Monday.
Monday. Yep.
Yeah,
Why is it
Saturday.
not?
We get 5 days. It's a 5-day weekend. So we're playing. It's still a break.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
So again, we're going to go back to those 2 main processes that we see in biology, photosynthesis and cell respiration. Photosynthesis is going to store energy in chemical bonds, specifically as glucose. And then cell respiration basically breaks that apart, turns it into ATP, which then can be used to drive kinetic movements in proteins. Okay. Again, there's that equation that you all have to know sometime eventually. Backwards and forwards.
And upside down.
Yeah. All right, potential chemical energy. For example, gasoline. It's got potential energy in it in the bonds. It can be transformed into kinetic energy by a chemical reaction called combustion. This is what allows your cars to move or your bus to move if you drove to school here today or rode to school here in some way, shape, or form. All right, I don't want to get into free energy just yet, so we'll leave it here. Okay. All right. You've got 16 minutes to work on your free response questions.
So, here.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Yeah, just gotta sign out.
I don't know why.
Are you ready?
Judge J. Smith, please come to the office.
So it's number 61. Mr. Rowell. I'm glad I get to know.
All right, give me a second.